We are here. We have it. It's right here. Hi y'all. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to a new video. FKA Twigs, Magdalene album review. Let's talk about it. This is the long-awaited sophomore release from singer, songwriter, producer, polymath in music, FKA Twigs. She made a splash back in 2014 with her album LP1, which was this art pop infused with UK deconstructed club as well as a wonkiness to it that's unmatched. LP1 really set the stage for what FKA Twigs was going to do in the future, and it seemed like she had some promise to her. Definitely a great album, nevertheless, but when you wanted her the most, she vanished. After the release of LP1, she went into silence. She probably went on a tour, and then fell into obscurity. And then she dropped the Melissa EP, and then she faded away. Where was FKA Twigs? Where was she? She was necessary for us. Necessary! But out of the blue, she drops this single and a video for the single called Cellophane. She dropped the single in the beginning of 2019, and from my first listen, I loved it. It was a fantastic single. It was a fantastic release. It was a fantastic video to this single as well. I heard she spent several months practicing this pole dancing routine in the video. So we were finally getting FKA Twigs. We were getting her back. I'm excited. When's the album gonna come out? Then the song Holy Terrain came out featuring Future. It was a disappointment for me, at least. In context to what FKA Twigs was doing before the single was released, this song made no sense. It just felt like a trap banger. That was it. And while it is one of the better trap singles of 2019, where does it fit in the FKA Twigs catalog? So then I was confused, but maybe this was some weird off single. It wasn't attached to the album, but then I see this single is attached to the album, so I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's something going on here. Maybe I just have to listen to this. And then the song Home With You comes out, and I'm even more disappointed with that release. The weird modulations on her vocals are just way too wonky, and I think it just, for me, when I first heard this, failed at being experimental. And it was kind of worrying, because what is FKA Twigs going to do with these two singles and then Cellophane? And then the song Sad Day came out, and that came out a couple days before the release of this album, so I really didn't have much time to make heads or tails of this track, but I think I was leaning towards the more liking side of this track. So going into this album, I was very worried. What is FKA Twigs going to do with this release? How are all these songs gonna come together in a meaningful way? LP1 wasn't the most conceptual album of that year, but it was definitely something that had a theme to it. The song Home With You, the song Holy Terrain, the song Cellophane, they never seemed to connect. So going into this, again, I was worried. How the hell is FKA Twigs going to pull off this album? But guys, y'all, this is great. This is a great album. This is a great album. And in the context of everything, listening to this for the first time, it all made sense. This album compared to LP1 is more stripped back. It's more intimate. It's more vulnerable. LP1 was mainly characterized by production. It had a very bold, braggadocious production to it. And Twigs' vocals were very much there, but they weren't the forefront of this album. The production was the main shining star, the jewel of this album. But on Magdalene, it's completely flipped. The production is almost second thought to the vocals, as if the production was used after the vocals were laid out. Magdalene isn't as long as LP1, but it's just as dense. LP1 had a lot of deconstructed club bangers to it, while Magdalene has alternative R&B, art pop glitch pop. These are the main components of this album. And all of these aspects come together to make a very lyrically introspective and dense album, but also with the production is slightly futuristic, very atmospheric, ambient pop inspired as well. This album is a big step in the right direction for FKA Twigs as well, as we are seeing more of a vocal prowess on this album. Her vocals do stand out amongst the crowd in being one of the best art pop releases of this year. You start the album off with the thick, dense, hardcore, in the terms of the bass on the song, Thousand Eyes, which FKA Twigs refers to as whenever she's in the public, it feels like 1,000 eyes are looking at her. This is only a moment of few where the vocals are not the shining star of this, they are encompassed by the production, which is mainly bass driven. The vocals are repetitive, but they're repetitive in a sense that they're trying to get a message across. If I walk out the door, it starts our last goodbye. If you don't pull me back, it wakes 1,000 eyes. You can also make this about a relationship, as this album conceptually does seem like a relationship, or the beginnings, or the ending, or the middle of a relationship. Really just in general, relationship. This isn't a sexual album like LP1 was. It's not super sensual as well, but it's still maintaining the themes of love and breakup and heartache and relationships in the terms of like boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband deal. This theme is perpetuated with the next track, Home With You. This is one of the tracks that I was very worried going into this album, how is this going to fit conceptually, but once I listened to this track in the context of this record, it all made sense. It's one side of this, it's kind of like a good versus evil. The two sides to FKA Twigs, the modulated, heavily distorted vocals on one track versus her faint, whisper, quiet, but yet cathartic vocals on the other track as well. It's dynamic. It maintains that dynamic throughout this entire track, as the modulated vocals are having conversation with the regular vocals. The track Sad Day, again, perpetuates this idea of love, repeating the mantra of, would you make a wish on my love, as this is the chorus of this track. The production on this track is slightly glitchy, a little bit downtrodden, a little down-tempo as well. But again, the production on this album isn't the main star of this project. It's the vocals, it's the vocal performances, it's also the lyrics as well. The song Holy Terrain, again, was one that I was not looking forward to in the project, but actually, again, just like Home With You, it fits in this album. But again, it still kind of makes me wonder, like, it feels like an oddball in the track listing, but again, it kind of makes sense with everything. It's not a moment that I'm looking at and I'm like, oh, this is a fantastic thing. However, FKA Twigs does deliver a great vocal performance, and I'm actually surprised how clear and coherent Future is on this track. The trap instrumental is a banger. It's very clean, it's very crisp. The hi-hats, the snares, everything about this track seems so meticulously placed. The song Mary Magdalene incorporates this theme of Mary Magdalene herself. If you don't know, Mary Magdalene is the saint that traveled with Jesus, a key component in the religion of Christianity. FKA Twigs references this character in Christianity as saying that she was mainly referred to as being dependent on men around her, saying that she was actually very independent and she also wants to be seen as independent. Twigs wants to be seen as independent. She's not dependent or codependent on any man. That's echoed on the first verse of this track. A woman's work, a woman's prerogative, a woman's time to embrace. She must put herself first. A woman's touch, a sacred geometry. I know where you start, where you end, how to please, how to curse. The chorus also echoes this independence as well. The chorus of this track is also very angelic, and her vocals, again, shine on this track and across this entire album. When she gets into her higher register on the first line of the chorus, it just... it's moments like this that makes me very impressed with how much she can do with such little. The production on Fallen Alien is hard-hitting. Just kind of like A Thousand Eyes, it's encompassing her vocals. She refers to herself as this fallen alien, saying, "I'm a fallen alien. I never thought that you would be the one to tie me down, but you did. In this age of Satan, I'm searching for a light to take me home and guide me out." Referring to maybe a relationship of some sorts. The song Daybed, which, if I am looking at this right, was written by Oneohtrix, Point Never, and FKA Twigs. Damn. It's a sensual, very rarely a sexual moment on this, even referring to cunnilingus. Verse 2 is very sexual, actually. But it's this sensual, connected, sexual attraction that doesn't make it feel weird when you're listening to it. It's a lush track. It's almost bittersweet in a sense, too. I know she was dating Robert Pattinson for the longest time, and I believe that might come in play with the last track on this album, Cellophane, which references the package wrap, cellophane, being constricted, being tight, being unable to speak your mind, walking on eggshells around this person. It's this piano ballad that then gets somewhat distorted in the latter half of the song. To talk about Magdalene as a whole, lyricism on this album has really improved. In the production, I don't think it's gone downhill. I actually think it's just gone more stripped back. It's not as boisterous or as in-your-face as what was on LP1. Magdalene works very well in the confines that it sets itself in. It's a beautifully progressive and passionate concept album that really is one of her best releases to date. This goes far beyond what my expectation was going for her on this album. But the melodic, slightly psychedelic tone of this album really makes this album a treat to come back to over and over and over again. And while I'm not completely head over heels for the future feature, I still think this is a fantastic record. That's definitely one for this year. I really like this release. It's a fantastic listen, and I certainly think you will dig it too. It's not the longest album in the world. It's only about 40 minutes and 9 tracks. Stupid piece of hair is on my face. Listen to it. It's fantastic. It's a beautiful listen, and I really think you will dig it. So, Magdalene by FK Twigs. I'm feeling an A for this album. It's a fantastic listen. It's highly enjoyable and super recommendable. That's what I'm doing to you. Recommending this album to you. Listen to it. Outro. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this album down below, and let me know what albums you want me to review next. And that is it. Leave a like, comment, share, do whatever you want. Let me know how I can improve future videos down below, and remember, this is only my opinion because music is subjective.